The giant crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber sparkled under the light of 3 suns. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in floating chairs arranged in perfect circles. At the center of it all stood Hyunwoo, the last human ambassador to ever address this council. His dark suit looked simple compared to the colorful robes and strange armor worn by the aliens around him, but his eyes held a fire that made even the biggest creatures shift uncomfortably in their seats. He had been listening to them talk about humanity for 3 hours now, and every word made him angrier. "The human species has shown dangerous tendencies," announced Counselor Veltar, a tall blue creature with 4 arms and no visible mouth. His words came from a device on his chest that translated thoughts into sound. "Their technology grows too fast. Their expansion into space is too aggressive. They ask too many questions about things they should not know." Other aliens nodded their agreement. The hegemony representatives, with their metallic skin and glowing red eyes, tapped their claws on their armrests. The floating jellyfish-like drifters pulsed their agreement in waves of purple light. Even the peaceful plant people called the Verdani seemed nervous about what Veltar was saying. Hyunwoo remained silent. He had learned long ago that interrupting the council only made things worse for humanity. Better to let them finish their speeches and reveal their true intentions. "Therefore," Veltar continued, "the Council has decided to implement immediate protective measures. All human faster-than-light research will stop today. All human colony ships currently traveling to new worlds must return to Earth immediately. All human settlements beyond their home solar system will be relocated to safer locations under Council supervision." The chamber fell quiet. 47 alien species waited to see how the human would react to having his entire civilization put in chains. Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Counselor Veltar," he said in a calm voice that carried clearly through the vast chamber. 3 years ago, humanity came to this council seeking friendship. We offered to share our knowledge, our resources, and our strength. We asked only to be treated as equals among the stars." He turned slowly, looking at each section of alien representatives. "Instead, you gave us the primitive species oversight protocols. You decided we were too young, too dangerous, too unpredictable to be trusted with real freedom. You treated us like children who needed constant watching." The Zephyrian representative, a creature that looked like a walking crystal, chimed softly. "Humans are still very new to space travel. These protocols exist to protect everyone, including yourselves." "Protect?" Hyunwoo laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to protect the galaxy from the species that helped you solve the neutron storm crisis last year? From the people who figured out how to stop the plague of worlds that was killing your crops? From the scientists who have been quietly fixing problems you didn't even know you had?" Several aliens shifted uncomfortably. They remembered those events, but they had assumed the solutions came from their own people. Veltar's device hummed with irritation. "Human arrogance is exactly why these measures are necessary. You think you are special, but you are simply one more young species that needs guidance." Hyunwoo reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like a simple communication tablet. But the aliens didn't know it was connected to quantum networks that stretched across human space, linking every Earthship, station, and colony in a web of instant communication. "You want to know what makes humans special, Counselor?" Hyunwoo asked. "We know when to leave a place that doesn't want us." He pressed a single button on the device. At that exact moment, across thousands of light-years of space, every human vessel and settlement received the same simple message. "Execute Protocol Exodus. Admiral So-min, commanding Earth's hidden fleet," from a secret base beyond Pluto, smiled grimly as the message appeared on her screen. She had been preparing for this day since the first oversight protocol was announced. "All ships," she announced over the fleet communication system, "activate dimensional phase drives. Full spectral shift in 3, 2, 1, mark." In the space around Earth's moon, what looked like a small research station suddenly revealed itself to be something much larger. Massive panels unfolded from its surface, and energy that bent light itself began to pulse from its core. The station was actually a dimensional anchor, a piece of technology that could shift entire regions of space into parallel dimensions. On Mars, in the asteroid belt around Jupiter's moons and at human colonies scattered across local space, identical anchors activated simultaneously. The technology was based on theories that human scientists had developed in secret, working with principles of quantum mechanics that even the most advanced council species didn't understand. Captain Dalsu, commanding the exploration vessel New Horizon near the edge of human space, watched his instruments as reality itself seemed to shimmer around his ship. "Phase shift complete," reported his science officer. "We are now dimensionally isolated from normal space-time. No council sensors can detect us, and no council ships can reach us." Back in the council chamber, alarms began screaming. Aliens rushed to communication stations and sensor displays, their voices rising in panic and confusion. "Impossible," shouted the hegemony representative. "The human colonies on Kepler 442 have vanished. Our sensors show empty space. The research station near Wolf 359 is gone," cried a drifter. "It was there one moment, then nothing." Veltar's device was humming so fast it sounded like a swarm of angry insects. "What have you done?" he demanded, staring at Hyunwoo. The human ambassador looked around the chamber one last time. Every alien representative was staring at him in shock and growing fear. They were beginning to realize that humanity had capabilities they never suspected. "We have removed ourselves from your galaxy," Hyunwoo said simply. "Every human ship, every human station, every human colony has been shifted into dimensional space where you cannot reach us. We are still here, but we are no longer part of your universe." He walked toward the chamber's exit, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. At the doorway, he turned back. "We came to you seeking partnership," he said. "You offered only chains. We choose freedom instead. When you have learned the difference between protecting someone and controlling them, you know how to find us. Until then, goodbye." Hyunwoo walked out of the chamber, leaving 47 alien species staring at empty air where humanity used to be. In the space of a single moment, Earth had severed all ties with the Galactic Council and vanished into dimensions beyond their reach. The age of human isolation had begun, and the galaxy would soon learn exactly what it had lost. 6 months had passed since humanity disappeared from the galaxy, and the universe was falling apart. Dr. Jae-sung stood in the observation deck of the hidden research station Prometheus, watching through dimensional viewers as alien ships frantically searched the empty space where human colonies used to exist. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he couldn't stop watching the chaos unfold. "Sir," called his assistant, a young woman named Hae-rin. "The latest reports from our monitoring stations are coming in. It's worse than we predicted." Jae-sung sighed and turned away from the window. As Earth's former head of interdimensional physics, he had spent years working with the Galactic Council on projects they thought they understood. The aliens had no idea that 17 critical hyperspace relays across the galaxy depended on constant adjustments that only he and his team could provide. "Show me the damage report," he said, settling into his chair. Hae-rin activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy's major trade routes. Red zones marked areas where hyperspace travel had become dangerous or impossible. The Velnari Trade Confederation has lost 60% of their shipping capacity. Ships are getting lost in hyperspace because the navigation beacons we maintained are failing. The display zoomed in on specific sectors. The route between the Centauri Industrial Zone and the Vega agricultural worlds collapsed completely yesterday. 3 cargo ships full of medical supplies are stranded halfway between systems. Jae-sung nodded grimly. The aliens had always assumed that hyperspace was naturally stable, like a river that flowed on its own. They never realized that what they thought was a natural phenomenon actually required constant maintenance by human quantum computers working around the clock. Meanwhile, Captain Dalsu commanded the exploration vessel New Horizon from its hiding place in folded space. His ship existed in the same location as before, but shifted into a parallel dimension where alien sensors couldn't detect them. From here, they could watch everything happening in normal space while remaining completely invisible. "Captain," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving another batch of distress signals. The hegemony has dispatched 12 search fleets to former human territories, but they're finding nothing but empty space. Dalsu smiled without humor. Let me guess, they're using quantum scanners to look for dimensional signatures? Yes, sir, but their technology can only detect shifts in the first 3 parallel dimensions. Our phase drives pushed us into the 7th dimension. They might as well be looking for us with flashlights in an ocean. The captain leaned back in his command chair. Any word from Earth Command about how long we maintain radio silence? President Wanshik's last message said to continue monitoring and recording everything. Earth wants a complete record of how the galaxy handles our absence. Dalsu nodded. It was a smart strategy. Let the aliens figure out on their own how much they had depended on humanity. No amount of talking could teach that lesson as effectively as simple absence. But the worst crisis was developing on the agricultural worlds of the Zephyrian Republic. Administrator Kriesh stood in the central control room of the planet New Harvest, staring at crop reports that made no sense. The blight is spreading faster than our models predicted, reported her chief agricultural scientist. Without the human research team's weekly treatments, the quantum fungus is adapting to our standard antifungal compounds. Kriesh's crystalline body chimed with worry. The Zephyrians looked like walking musical instruments, their crystal skin producing different tones based on their emotions. Right now she sounded like a funeral song. How long before the outbreak reaches the core agricultural zones? She asked. At current spread rates, 3 months. If we can't find a way to stop it, we're looking at total crop failure across 17 worlds. That's food for over 2 billion people. The truth was that Earth's xenobiologists had been secretly fighting this plague for 2 years. They had developed a treatment that required weekly application of specially designed quantum-modified bacteria. The aliens thought the treatment was something their own scientist had created, never realizing that human researchers were doing all the actual work. Dr. Sunja reviewed the crisis reports from her hidden laboratory on Research Station Omega. As Earth's leading expert on alien biology, she had been monitoring 37 different worlds for various biological threats. Most alien species didn't even know these threats existed. The Andromedans are reporting strange behavior in their domesticated creatures, her research partner, Minsu, informed her. Memory loss, aggression, loss of motor control. That's the neural parasite we've been suppressing for the past year, Sunja replied. Without our weekly telepathic treatments, it's starting to spread again. She pulled up another report. And these energy fluctuations in drifter space? Solar resonance cascade. We've been dampening it with our gravitational field generators. If it continues unchecked, their sun will go nova in about 5 years. Sunja shook her head. The drifters had evolved around that star over millions of years, never knowing that its natural cycle would eventually destroy them. Human scientists had quietly fixed the problem without telling anyone, just like they had solved dozens of other cosmic threats. The most frustrated aliens were the Crystalline Collective, who had managed to recover some human equipment from abandoned research stations. Their greatest scientists worked around the clock trying to understand human technology. Chief Engineer Krixtal studied the quantum computer core they had found on a human outpost. The device was the size of a coffee cup, but somehow contained processing power that surpassed their largest supercomputers. The mathematical principles make no sense, he reported to the collective leadership. They're using 17-dimensional quantum matrices running on what appears to be controlled temporal paradoxes. Our computers crash just trying to model how this works. His assistant, Nexara, gestured to another piece of human equipment. This hyperspace communication relay is even worse. It seems to be sending messages not just across space, but across parallel timelines. The humans were apparently talking to alternate versions of themselves. The aliens were learning that human technology wasn't just advanced, it was based on entirely different principles than anything else in the galaxy. Where alien science built bigger and more complex machines, human science had found ways to make reality itself do the work. Back on Earth, President Wanshik sat in the Situation Room, reviewing reports from monitoring stations hidden throughout human space. Director Hae-jin of Colonial Affairs spread out the latest intelligence summaries across the conference table. The galaxy is in chaos, she reported. Trade routes failing, agricultural crises, mysterious plagues spreading unchecked. Some alien governments are starting to blame each other for our disappearance. One Shik studied the data. Any signs that they understand what really happened? A few of their smarter scientists are beginning to connect the dots, Hiejin replied. Dr. Melthira of the Verdani has published a paper suggesting that humans were maintaining critical infrastructure without council knowledge. But most of them still think we just ran away like scared children. The president stood and walked to the window that looked out over the hidden city of New Geneva, built inside a massive asteroid and protected by the same dimensional shields that hid the rest of human civilization. How long do our analysts think it will take before they start begging us to come back? He asked. Conservative estimate? 2 years. But if something really dangerous happens, like a major system failure or external threat, they might break much sooner. Wan Shik nodded. Humanity was playing a dangerous game, but it was the only way to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Sometimes the best way to prove your value was to take it away and let others discover what they had lost. Outside, the window, human ships continued their quiet patrol of dimensional space, watching and waiting for the galaxy to learn that freedom and friendship could not be given as gifts to those who demanded chains instead. 2 years had passed since humanity vanished from the galaxy, and desperation was setting in among the alien species. What started as confusion had grown into panic, as one system after another failed without human maintenance. Commander Thexara of the Hegemony stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Crimson Blade staring at empty space where the human colony of New Shanghai once orbited a distant star. Her ship was equipped with the most advanced sensors the Hegemony could build, but they showed nothing except cosmic dust and radiation. Scan again, she ordered her crew. Use every frequency, every detection method we have. Her sensor officer, a nervous young Hegemony warrior named Dexavol, worked frantically at his controls. Ma'am, we've scanned this space 17 times. There's no trace of dimensional disturbance, no quantum signatures, no hyperspace residue. It's like the humans never existed. Thexara's metallic claws scraped against her command chair. The Hegemony had sent her to find the humans because she was their best tracker, the one who could find anything hiding anywhere in the galaxy. But how do you track something that might not even exist in the same reality anymore? What she didn't know was that Captain Minho watched her every move from the stealth vessel Silent Thunder, hidden just a few hundred meters away in the 7th dimension. His ship used technology that made it completely invisible to normal space sensors, while allowing perfect observation of everything happening around them. They're trying thermal imaging now, reported his science officer, a woman named Sujin. Same results as every other scan they've attempted. Minho smiled grimly. Let them keep trying. Every failed search teaches them a little more about how much they don't understand. The Silent Thunder was one of 50 human vessels scattered throughout the galaxy, monitoring alien activities and gathering intelligence. They had standing orders to remain hidden unless human lives were in immediate danger. Meanwhile, on the research world of Axiom Prime, the Crystalline Collective had gathered their greatest minds to reverse engineer human technology. Dr. Yunji watched their efforts from Research Station Ghost, a human facility that existed in the same space but shifted into parallel time, as well as parallel dimension. The aliens had managed to recover a human quantum computer from an abandoned outpost, and their best scientists worked day and night trying to understand how it functioned. What they didn't realize was that human computers used principles based on controlled temporal paradoxes. They actually calculated answers by asking their future selves for help. They've been at it for 6 months, reported her assistant, Dr. Byung-ho. Their latest attempt just caused another cascade failure that shut down 3 of their research centers. Yunji shook her head as she watched the crystalline scientists argue among themselves through dimensional viewers. They're trying to understand 16-dimensional quantum matrices with 3-dimensional thinking. It's like asking a fish to explain how birds fly. The most interesting development was happening among the Verdani, the peaceful plant people who had always shown more respect for humanity than most other species. Elder Salandros had begun constructing memorial gardens where human colonies once stood, using flowering plants from dozens of worlds to create beautiful remembrances. Unlike other species who saw humanity's disappearance as abandonment, the Verdani recognized it as a statement. They understood that humans had chosen to leave rather than be controlled, and they respected that choice even while mourning the loss. The Verdani are different, observed Captain Yura from her monitoring station aboard the vessel Distant Watch. They're not trying to find us or control us, they're just remembering us. Her first officer, Lieutenant Taman, nodded as he studied the readings from the memorial gardens. Elder Silandros has been broadcasting messages into space. Not demands or threats, just apologies. And thanks for what we did before we left. It was the first sign that at least one alien species understood what had really happened. But the most dramatic changes were happening on Earth itself. President Wanshik had called together the Shadow Council, a group of Earth's most important leaders who now governed humanity from hidden space. Director Haye Jin of Colonial Affairs presented the latest reports from their monitoring networks. The galaxy is fragmenting faster than we predicted. The hegemony is facing internal rebellion as member species blame them for our departure. The merchant guilds have declared independence from the council. 3 entire sectors have gone dark. We think civil wars have broken out. Admiral Somin, now commanding Earth's expanded fleet from the hidden fortress world of New Terra, added her own intelligence. Our deep space monitors are detecting massive military buildups in 17 systems. Without our mediation services, old conflicts are heating up again. President Wanshik studied the holographic display showing the galaxy's current state. Red zones marked areas of conflict. Yellow zones showed failing infrastructure, and green zones, which were growing smaller every month, indicated stable regions. Are we seeing any signs that they understand what we were really doing for them? He asked. Some of their smarter individuals are starting to connect the dots, replied Dr. Sung Hwan, Earth's leading expert on alien psychology. But most of their governments are still in denial. They can't accept that a primitive species was quietly keeping their civilization running. The debate that followed divided the Shadow Council. Some members, led by Director Haye Jin, argued for making limited contact with species like the Verdani, who had shown respect for humanity. Others insisted that Earth should maintain complete isolation until the entire galaxy begged for their return. The discussion was interrupted by urgent alarms from the monitoring stations. We're detecting massive energy signatures from dark space, reported Dr. Sunja from her research facility. Something big is moving in the void between galaxies. Admiral Somin's expression turned grim as she studied the sensor data. How big are we talking? Unknown, but the gravitational disturbances are affecting space-time across light years. Whatever's coming, it's larger than anything we've seen before. Dr. Sunja enhanced the display, showing energy patterns that seemed to consume everything. They touched. These readings match theoretical models for devourers, extra-dimensional parasites that feed on the quantum energy that holds matter together. The Shadow Council fell silent. Devourers were more than just another alien threat. They were entities that could literally eat planets, stars, even empty space itself, converting everything into pure energy to fuel their reproduction. How long until they reach inhabited space? President Wanshik asked. At current velocity, 18 months, Sunja replied, but they're accelerating, and sir, the quantum barriers that were supposed to keep them in dark space have failed. Admiral Somin understood immediately. The barriers that humans maintained. Exactly. We built a network of quantum field generators around the galaxy's edge 200 years ago, after the first Devourer incursion. The aliens never knew they existed because we disguised them as natural phenomena. But maintaining them required constant adjustment by human quantum computers. The implications hit everyone at once. Humanity had not just been helping alien civilization run smoothly. They had been protecting the entire galaxy from threats that existed beyond normal space and time. Now those protections were failing, and entities that could devour entire star systems were heading toward inhabited space. The aliens didn't even know the danger existed, much less how to fight it. President Wanshik looked around the council chamber at humanity's leaders. How long do we have before the galactic government realizes what's coming? They won't detect. The Devourers until they're already attacking inhabited systems, Sunja replied. Their sensors can't see into the dimensional spaces where Devourers exist. The Shadow Council faced an impossible choice. They could maintain their isolation and let alien civilizations discover the Devourer threat on their own, possibly too late to mount an effective defense. Or they could reveal themselves and save species that had tried to chain them. Either way, humanity's quiet exile was about to end. The galaxy was going to need its guardians again, whether it wanted them or not. 5 years after humanity severed ties with the Galactic Council, the universe was dying. Admiral Kite stood in the command center of New Terra, humanity's greatest hidden fortress, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. What had started as infrastructure failures and political conflicts had exploded into complete chaos. Worse, the ancient threat that humanity had quietly guarded against for centuries was now loose in normal space. Sir, the latest reconnaissance from Captain Dalsu shows the Sector 7 coalition has completely collapsed, reported his intelligence officer, Commander Yeon Su. The hegemony is fighting civil wars on 12 fronts. The merchant guilds are raiding former council worlds for resources. Kite studied the tactical display with growing concern. Red zones now covered 60% of the galaxy, marking areas where government had collapsed, infrastructure had failed, or open warfare raged between former allies. But the red zones were nothing compared to the black zones. "Show me the Devourer advance," he ordered. The display shifted to show the outer rim of the galaxy, where patches of absolute darkness spread like cancer through space. These weren't areas where stars had gone out. These were regions where matter itself had been consumed, leaving nothing but empty void. Dr. Sunja materialized as a hologram from her research station. "The situation is worse than our models predicted, Admiral. The Devourers aren't just feeding randomly. They're targeting quantum weak points, areas where the fabric of spacetime is thin." She highlighted several expanding dark zones. The Kepler sector went dark 3 days ago. 47 inhabited worlds, over 8 billion lives just gone, converted to pure energy to fuel more Devourer reproduction. Kaite's jaw tightened. The Devourers were extra-dimensional parasites that existed in the spaces between realities. They fed by breaking down the quantum bonds that held matter together, converting entire star systems into the energy they needed to reproduce and spread. "How long until they reach the core worlds?" he asked. "At current expansion rate, 6 months. But Admiral," Sunja paused, "they're not expanding randomly. They're following the old hyperspace routes, the ones that failed when we stopped maintaining them. It's like they're using the damaged space-time as highways." The irony was bitter. Humanity's withdrawal had not only destabilized galactic civilization, it had given the Devourers a path to the heart of inhabited space. Across the galaxy, the remaining alien governments finally began to understand the scope of the disaster. On the council world of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions ran day and night as representatives tried to coordinate a response to threats they barely understood. Counselor Veltar, the same blue-skinned alien who had pushed through the primitive species oversight protocols, now stood before a nearly empty chamber. Many council members had fled back to their home worlds to organize defenses. Others had simply vanished as their entire civilizations were consumed by the expanding darkness. 2. Outer Rim defensive fleets report total communication loss with Frontier Command, announced the few remaining military officers. "We must assume the entire 7th Fleet has been destroyed." Veltar's translation device hummed with barely controlled panic. "How many ships do we have left?" "Approximately 4,000 vessels across all remaining fleets." "But, sir, our weapons have no effect on these entities. They exist partially outside normal space-time. Our energy beams pass right through them." The truth was that fighting Devourers required technology based on quantum dimensional manipulation, the same principles that human scientists had mastered centuries ago. Standard alien weapons were like trying to fight shadows with swords. But the Devourers were not the only threat facing the galaxy. The collapse of the hyperspace relay network had left entire sectors isolated, and without human mediation, Old conflicts erupted into devastating wars. The Zephyrian agricultural worlds were under siege by desperate refugee fleets seeking food. The Crystalline Collective had split into warring factions fighting over the few remaining functional quantum computers. Even the peaceful drifters had been forced to defend themselves against raiders attacking their energy farms. Captain Min Ho watched the chaos unfold from his stealth vessel, still hidden in dimensional space near what used to be a major trade hub. The space around him was empty now except for debris from battles between former trading partners. "Captain, we're receiving another batch of distress transmissions," reported his communications officer. "The survivors on New Kepler are requesting immediate evacuation assistance. They have maybe 6 hours before the Devourers reach their system." Minho closed his eyes. New Kepler had 8 million inhabitants, including families with children. But his orders were clear: maintain concealment, unless human lives were directly threatened. "Any word from Earth Command about changing our rules of engagement?" he asked. "Nothing official, sir. But the encrypted traffic between our monitoring stations suggests the Shadow Council is debating a change in policy." On Earth, that debate was tearing the government apart. President Wanshik faced the most difficult decision in human history as he addressed the emergency session of the Shadow Council. Around the conference table sat the most powerful people in human space, and they could not agree on what to do. "We have to act," insisted Director Hyjin, slamming her hand on the table. 8 billion people dead in the Kepler sector alone. How many more will die while we sit here debating? Admiral So-min shook her head. "Our withdrawal was a strategic decision based on the aliens' refusal to treat us as equals. If we come running back the moment they're in trouble, we validate everything they said about us being a primitive species that needs to be controlled." "This isn't about politics anymore," Dr. Sunja interjected from her holographic connection. "The Devourers don't care about our diplomatic strategies. They'll consume human space just as easily as alien space once they're finished with the Outer Rim." The president studied intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Desperate transmissions flooded the quantum void as alien governments finally began to understand what they had lost when humanity disappeared. The most moving message came from Elder Sil Andros of the Verdani. The plant being's transmission was broadcast on all frequencies, sent to every corner of space where human monitoring stations might be listening. "People of Earth," the translation read, "we understand now what we failed to see before. You were never the children we thought you were. You were the guardians who protected us from dangers we never knew existed. Our arrogance blinded us to your true nature." The message continued with a formal apology from the Verdani government and a plea for humanity to consider returning. "We know we have no right to ask for your help after how we treated you. But if any spark of compassion remains, please remember that billions of innocent lives hang in the balance." Similar messages arrived from other species, but they were different in tone. The hegemony demanded that humans return and fix the problems they had caused by leaving. The Crystalline Collective offered trade agreements in exchange for human assistance. Only the Verdani seemed to understand that humanity owed them nothing. The debate in the Shadow Council continued for hours. Some argued for complete isolation, until alien civilization collapsed and could be rebuilt on better terms. Others insisted that humanity's moral responsibility to protect innocent life outweighed diplomatic considerations. Finally, Dr. Sung Hwan, Earth's expert on alien psychology, offered a different perspective. "What if we're looking at this wrong?" he suggested. "We left to teach them a lesson about respect and independence. Well, they're learning that lesson now. Some of them, anyway. The question is whether we want to be the kind of species that watches billions die to make a point." President Wanshik was quiet for a long moment. Outside the conference room windows, the hidden city of New Geneva bustled with activity as millions of humans went about their lives, protected by dimensional barriers and advanced technology that the aliens could barely imagine. "Admiral So-min," he finally said, "how quickly could we mobilize a response to the Devourer threat?" "Our deep space fleets are already in position," she replied. "We've been tracking the Devourers since they first appeared. Give the word, and we can have quantum barrier generators deployed within 48 hours. And the cost? Revealing our true capabilities to every species in the galaxy. They'll know that we've been watching them, that our technology is centuries ahead of theirs, and that we've been the invisible guardians keeping their civilization stable all along. One chick nodded slowly. The decision would end humanity's isolation and forever change how aliens viewed their species. No longer would humans be seen as a young race needing guidance. They would be recognized as the most advanced civilization in the galaxy and its protectors. Very well, he said. Signal all fleets to prepare for Operation Lighthouse. It's time to remind the galaxy what humanity really is. The first sign that humanity had returned came not as a message or diplomatic contact, but as a miracle that saved an entire star system from destruction. The Devourers had reached the Aldebaran system, home to 12 billion Zephyrian civilians, who could only watch helplessly as the dark entities began consuming their outer planets. The crystalline beings had evacuated what they could, but their ships were too slow and their weapons too weak to fight creatures that existed partially outside normal reality. Then space itself began to shimmer. Captain Yu Jin commanded the battleship, eternal vigil as it emerged from dimensional phase directly between the Devourers and the inhabited worlds. Her ship was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 2 kilometers of flowing metal that seemed to bend light around its hull, powered by contained singularities and armed with weapons that fired concentrated reality itself. All stations. This is Captain Yu Jin of the Earth Defense Force. She broadcast on all frequencies. Zephyrian vessels, move to minimum safe distance. We are engaging the hostiles. The Zephyrian fleet commander, Administrator Kriesh, stared at her tactical displays in amazement. The human ship had appeared from nowhere, and now dozens more were materializing throughout the system. They moved with perfect coordination, as if controlled by a single mind. "How is this possible?" whispered her sensor officer. "These ships, they're reading as solid matter, but they're not reflecting electromagnetic radiation normally. It's like they're made of crystallized space-time." Yu Jin studied her tactical display as her weapons officer, Lieutenant Taeho, prepared the quantum cannons. The Devourers appeared as shifting shadows on their screens, creatures of living darkness that consumed everything they touched. "Target the largest entity," she ordered. "Quantum disruption torpedoes, maximum yield. Let's see if we still remember how to fight these things." The Eternal Vigil fired weapons that looked like cracks in reality itself. The torpedoes didn't just hit the Devourer, they unraveled the quantum bonds that allowed it to exist in normal space. The creature simply ceased, its matter energy returning to the quantum foam from which it had emerged. Across the system, more human ships appeared and engaged the Devourer swarm. These weren't the simple vessels that aliens remembered from before humanity's disappearance. These were warships evolved through 5 years of secret development, incorporating technology that made them seem like magic to species still struggling with basic faster-than-light travel. But the real shock came when Dr. Taeho activated the quantum barrier generators. From the human fleet, invisible fields spread outward at the speed of light, creating barriers in the fabric of space-time itself. The Devourers found themselves trapped, unable to phase back into the dimensional spaces where they normally hid. Suddenly vulnerable to conventional weapons, they were systematically destroyed by the combined fire of human and Zephyrian forces. Within 6 hours, the Aldebaran system was free of Devourers. The dark entities that had consumed 47 worlds in as many days had been stopped cold by a human fleet that appeared from nowhere and fought with weapons beyond alien understanding. News of humanity's return spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world, in every fleet, among every species, the same questions were asked. Where had the humans been? How had they become so powerful? And why had they chosen to save the very species that had tried to control them? Fleet Admiral So-min commanded the overall operation from her flagship, the massive vessel New Horizon, that served as a mobile command center for Earth's dimensional fleet. She watched tactical displays showing human forces engaging Devourers across 17 systems simultaneously. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from every remaining government in the galaxy," reported her communications officer. "The Galactic Council, what's left of it, is requesting immediate diplomatic contact." So-min smiled grimly. Tell them we'll talk when the galaxy is secure. Right now we have work to do. The work was massive. Human fleets appeared throughout inhabited space, deploying quantum barrier generators that recreated the protective network that had kept devourers in dark space for centuries. But this time the barriers were visible to alien sensors, impossible to ignore or misunderstand. Captain Dalsu, commanding one of the deep space fleets, coordinated the deployment of barriers around the galactic rim. His ships worked alongside engineering vessels that looked more like flying cities than traditional spacecraft, each one carrying manufacturing capabilities that could produce quantum field generators in real time. Barrier network at 60%, reported his engineering chief. We should have complete coverage within 72 hours. Any sign that the aliens understand what we're doing? Dalsu asked. Oh, they understand, his science officer replied with amusement. We're getting sensor sweeps from every major fleet in the galaxy. They're trying to figure out how our technology works. The aliens were indeed studying every aspect of humanity's return. The Crystalline Collective had deployed their most advanced research vessels to observe human ships, but their instruments could barely detect the exotic matter and folded space-time that human engineering used. Their hulls appear to be constructed from compressed neutronium reinforced with quantum filaments, reported Chief Scientist Krixtal to the collective leadership. But that should be impossible. The gravitational fields alone would crush any normal matter nearby. His assistant added more impossible observations. Their weapons fire concentrated packets of altered space-time. They're literally shooting pieces of reality at their targets, and their shields appear to be made of folded dimensions. Attacks don't hit the ship so much as get lost in recursive space. But the most shocking revelation came when Ambassador Sung Min addressed the remnants of the Galactic Council from the bridge of his diplomatic vessel. Unlike the simple ships aliens remembered, this one was clearly designed to impress, a kilometer-long work of art that seemed to be carved from a single piece of crystallized starlight. Representatives of the galactic community, he began, his image appearing on communication screens throughout inhabited space. Humanity has returned not out of forgiveness but out of responsibility. We cannot stand by and watch innocent lives consumed by threats you cannot fight. He gestured to display showing the quantum barrier network. For the past 5 years, while you struggled with infrastructure failures and political conflicts, we have continued to evolve. We have developed technologies that allow us to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. We have learned to exist in dimensions you cannot perceive and travel through spaces you cannot imagine. The assembled aliens listened in stunned silence, as Sungmin continued. But power without purpose is meaningless. We choose to use our capabilities to protect those who cannot protect themselves, even those who once sought to control us. He paused, letting the implications sink in. The barriers being deployed around your galaxy will prevent future devourer incursions. Our fleets will patrol the deep spaces between stars, watching for threats that emerge from beyond normal reality. And our research stations will continue the work of maintaining the quantum foundations that keep your civilization stable. Then came the terms that would reshape galactic politics forever. But humanity will no longer accept the role of junior partner in galactic affairs. We will not subject ourselves to oversight protocols or primitive species designations. We offer our protection freely, but we will not be commanded or controlled by those we protect. The covenant of stars that emerged from the negotiations established humanity as an independent custodial power. Earth would maintain its dimensional isolation, but human fleets would patrol the galaxy's borders, and human research stations would monitor cosmic threats. The Galactic Council could continue to govern civilized space, but with the understanding that humanity served as protector rather than member. Some species, led by the Verdani, embraced the new arrangement with gratitude and respect. Others, particularly the hegemony, struggled to accept that the primitive humans had become the galaxy's most advanced civilization. But acceptance was no longer required. Humanity had proven its worth through actions rather than words, and the galaxy's survival depended on their continued protection. Captain Minho stood on the observation deck of his ship, no longer hidden in dimensional space but proudly visible to any who cared to look. Around him, the Silent Thunder's crew went about their duties with quiet satisfaction. They had helped teach the galaxy a lesson that would never be forgotten. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a personal message from Elder Silandros of the Verdani." Minho smiled. "Put it through." The plant being's translated voice filled the bridge. "Captain Minho, though we have never met, I wanted to personally thank you and your crew for watching over us during the dark years. We know now that human ships were always nearby, protecting us even when we didn't deserve protection." The Elder paused. "You have taught us the difference between strength and arrogance, between protection and control. The Verdani will remember these lessons for all the generations to come." As Minho looked out at the stars, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had left the galaxy as a rejected junior partner and returned as its guardian.